this button. Yes, welcome everyone to Star Trek Trek, your ongoing journey through the episodes of Star Trek. We have just finished watching the incredible Q Who, an episode I've not watched for some time. This is part of my draft pick, where we had our episode draft where we all pick some episodes, and we're going to be scoring points based off them. And guys, I'm kind of wowed at how much better this episode was than I remember. Season 2 and Season 1 of TNG, you kind of just sort of hand wave away and go, yeah, don't worry, just get to Season 3. Actually, this was a banger.
So, Idle,
hello.
Why did you pick this episode in your draft?
So, my thinking was, and I picked this episode as alongside, which my next draft pick was, The Best of Both Worlds, Parts 1 and 2. I wanted to have like a little continuity run between this episode going straight into Best of Both Worlds, because it kind of sets up the narrative for the Borg, which are, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I do love the Borg. I think they're one of my favourite villains because of how unique they are. A lot of people, you shake your head, but a lot of people do sort of like look at the Borg now and go, yeah, they're overdone, and especially with how they were treated in Voyager and then in Picard Season 3 and 1, 2 and 3, and it kind of got a bit crazy. But this early iteration of the Borg, I think, are some of the most interesting, not just Star Trek, I don't even want to say villains, forces of nature that have actually ever, that challenges the ideals of things like the Federation. So I wanted to kind of get into this. I wanted an excuse to rewatch Q Who and go, actually, no, this isn't just a Season 2, early TNG sort of like cheesy episode, but there's Q and there's the Borg, and then get on to Best of Both Worlds, which is where the real meat is, apparently not. Guys, talk about Q Who to me. How did you find it?
This episode really could have been a motion picture. It's
it almost was.
Yeah. How brief how just given the extra half hour and a little bit more budget, it really could have, been the first Next Generation movie instead of what we got with Generations. So I was surprised continually throughout just how many visual effects they threw into this, how much effort they threw into it. The writing is very refined. It's clear this went through quite a bit of edit. The soundtrack is out of the park. It's just everything about this fires on all cylinders. Incredible episode. Go ahead, Otto.
I got too many things to say. Since you did mention the music, I just counted up his tracks from what he has on YouTube, Ron Jones. 26 and a half minutes just of the music, and then I'm sure they threw in some transition cues. So almost a half an hour of this 42 minutes was pumped with music, and I think they needed it because there's a lot of exposition. I'm going to jump actually on stars on something you said. Why did they go fight the Borg and then go back to the conference room? Actually, they had so much exposition, they had to pace it somehow. Some of it came from Guinan through the intercom. Two sections came from when they were in the conference room. Some came from Q while he was lounging on the crab shell on the bridge. So they did try to space it out into different portions, so it wasn't all just like a big dump of knowledge on you.
Yeah, I suppose I was that kind of point was from a perspective of having grown up with the Borg as just a fact of Star Trek, and so being like, well, you're taking a while to get to the point. It's like, no, back in 1988, I imagine this required a significant amount of much more preamble in terms of just setting up exactly what this is and how they work. Because saturation of science fiction was a lot better than it had been, say, in the 1960s, I think. But you say. People who are part machine, part human. Yeah, maybe there are people who have read a bit of William Gibson. Maybe there's a bit of understanding of that kind of stuff, but probably a lot of it not so much. So people have to be explained piecemeal, like this is what the Borg is and what the cyborg is. Looking at it from that perspective, it makes a lot more sense.
This is one of the things that Star Trek has done very well, is taking these big science fiction tropes in the written world, people like Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, and we like William Gibson and all, Peter A. Heinlein, all the big names in science fiction at the time, been writing about these very topics for years and years and years and years. but Star Trek has sort of found a way to make it accessible, and especially with the increase in budgets in television, we weren't doing the kind of 60s thing anymore where it was just like plastic monsters and like foam props. It was very much a case of like, we can actually make these look as scary as they should be. And I kind of want to draw on one of the really nice influences I like for this episode, which kind of reminded me when they first encountered the Borg cube, and you're kind of looking at it and it's this very unassuming cube, and it reminded me, and I mentioned it in our watch along, is there's a book called Rendezvous with Rama, and the concept of that is deep space telescopes pick up this essentially cylinder like the whale probe, essentially coming through space, and know nothing about it. It's completely alien to them. It essentially is a big sort of cylinder full of automatons and sort of vague weird things happening, sort of designed to test humanity. And this was very much an inspiration for this. The Borg essentially are a very simple shape, but with the intent of testing the humanity of the episode and having something so abstract to... I don't. There's something like, you look at the Galaxy class starship, a very stylized, very curvy thing. You've got your nice carpets, you've got your accentuated designs, and you just put in front of it a metal cube that is absolutely monstrous. It almost reminds me of the Fazarius from the Corbomite maneuver. It's like a very simple design in contrast to something, but is menacing in a way that you can't quite explain. It's almost primal.
Well, no, yeah, I think that's absolutely the intention, because if you think of, like, there are rules about what kind of, like, things a Starfleet ship is meant to have. It's meant to have even numbers of nacelles. It's meant to have a source section and engineering hull, and obviously you get variations on that later on. And it's like, there's obvious design principles, but there are no design principles to a Borg cube. It's just a single geometric shape of the most simple variety you can imagine in the most utilitarian thing you could possibly like conceive of, and it's so simple that your brain just kind of goes, but surely that's not all that it is. And well, it is, but it isn't as well. And that's kind of the appeal of it, and almost makes it a bit cosmic horror-y, is like something that looks so simple but can't possibly be, because the technology required to be out here and in doing these things means that you can't be that simple. So what lies underneath the artifice type thing? I think
it's a common
the
theme, like
genius
sort
of
of
making
with...
it a cube.
There is a film called Cube, the exact same thing, where it's a kind of tesseract inside, where it's like infinite dimensions. Things that look the simplest can often be the most deceptively complex, but I feel like we're straying a little bit away. I'm going to go for the low-hanging fruit here. This was written by Maurice Hurley, who also wrote some other episodes of Star Trek, including Hyde and Q, another Q episode, Data Law, The Child, Galaxy's Child, as well as Shades of Grey, which I don't know if you can technically count that as writing an episode. Otto, you're the Maurice Hurley expert. I'm so sorry. He's a problematic figure here. Do we want to go over that?
No, you know what?
While we're
on the production track, let's talk about some good things. 3 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Achievement in Special Visual Effects. 2 of them are wins for sound editing. And I'm looking at Rob Bowman, the director. His credits include a lot of duds. Shades of Grey, Manhunt, The Child, Too Short a Season, The Battle. But, he really did good in this episode. The lighting, as I said earlier, just somehow that low lighting helps make things feel cinematic. He had a lot of good tracking shots. And some of the reaction shots were noticeable in a good way. Like, you don't want to use them to stretch for time. You want to use them to accentuate something important that someone said or did. And I think he did that very effectively.
How many ways can you have John Delancey lounging about? Sorry, Dan, go.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rob Bowman went on to be a director and producer on the X-Files, and you can see a lot of shades of that in the way this episode is handled. Just the focus is on the people and their interplay, but the environment is this dark, gritty sci-fi reality, which is really interesting.
Yeah, having started watching X-Files season 1, that the cinematography and that is kind of like off the wall, ridiculously well done, extremely cinematic, which this also was. And like you say, it's very noir, very gothic, very, very intent on shadow, which is all to the good here, because you want it to be dark and moody and a little bit different from the rest of TNG up to this point.
Q in the conference room, half in shadow, and then when he disappears, just the empty chairs spinning is like, it adds to his
the evil Q.
I don't know what the right word
Mystique.
is. Mystique. Yeah, Mystique is he's ethereal, and he's great in this episode for a number of reasons. I mean, he's very funny, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. In part because of him plays it so straight. But I like that they go with an arc here. He starts out playful, teasing, and then when they reject him, you don't want to reject Q because he can be serious, and he leans on him a little bit, takes out 18 members of their crew, and then by the end, when Picard relents, then he relents a little bit, and it's like, if you don't play with Q, he's going to play with you, and I really like how they set him up in this.
I have a question. Is Delancey's portrayal of Q, is it arch? You know, is this scenery chewing, or is this him playing the line exactly right? Because you look at Montalban and Giamatti and the way that they just go over the top in the best possible way. You know, it's
so
a little bit different.
I think part of the reason it works is like I said, they play it so straight. But I don't. When I watch, especially Giamatti, I don't want to rag on it because he is a great actor, but
Yeah.
he is so big in Academy right now that when others play straight off him, I feel like I can't take them seriously. I'm like, okay, if someone was this big, that's too big. Like, wouldn't you acknowledge that? If you play it straight, that kind of throws me off. But you're right, he does ride the line. He's not goofy and wacky, but he's more of a trickster and more of a sprite. So.
Very low-key, yeah.
Well, yeah, he's very much in that trickster archetype. And yeah, he has that theatrical quality, which like I've seen a load of posts like positing that part of the reason why, well, one of the reasons that people aren't gravitating to New Trek as much is because it's lost that kind of Shakespearean quality. And there's a lot of that here in Q. Is that like I'm kind of thinking about is this the most threatening and the most like cruel that you get Q? Like you have
I don't think it's
Farpoint,
cruel.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, like 18 people died. You know, it's like
true.
And he has such an absolute refusal to let it stick to him. Like Picard tries to blame him for it. Like Riker is like looking like he wants to throw stuff across the table, and he's just like, "Oh please!" Like he just doesn't care. And I think that's the reason why it doesn't tip over into scenery chewing. Is because it becomes very obvious that this isn't John Delancey is overplaying his hand. This is Q, the character, playing the happy little like mad clown right up until you like piss him off or you hit a specific point, at which point he goes, "No, by the way, this is serious. Like I'm just fucking with you. And the instant you rise to my bait, I'm gonna snap you back right hard." And it's that understanding of exactly when to do that and when to kind of like move with the wave. That's what differentiates this from Giamatti, where it's like, yeah, that is very much a big performance in a sea of more subdued, realistic performances. And it's like, here you've still got Picard doing the theatricality, because guess what? Patrick Stewart is a Shakespearean actor. That's his training, that's his background. But that grandness still is met on that same kind of level, and that stops it from being. I mean, I think there's a bit of scenery left in his teeth, but it's not like over the top and impossible to take. And it's not impossible to take seriously. That's the important thing.
In a half an hour, he goes from growl for me microbrain to, if you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go home and crawl under your bed. It's not safe out here. So he gives with both hands.
It's John Delancey through and through, essentially, as well, which carries the performance. He is Q. There is no other Q than John Delancey. I mean, there have been a few others, but this iteration of Q, if they were to say, right, we're going to recast...
I do like William Campbell, I gotta say. He wasn't
yeah,
meant to be
Trelane's
Q.
great as well. Yeah.
He also rides that line when he gets angry. It's very Delancey-esque.
But I think like from the offset, because I've seen Delancey and other stuff. He has a big role in Stargate as well, and like he plays a different character, but with still some sort of Delancey-isms. Like for him coming in and encounter a Farpoint through Hide and Q, he has just been this rock solid trickster characterization. He has not dropped it for anything. Even coming back for Picard season 2 is just like, it's always been that balance between trickster and serious, between putting people at risk to teach a lesson, to give humanity its trial, but with his charm. And it wouldn't have worked as well if it wasn't Delancey. If they'd have cast anyone else, well, I can't say that for certain, but because it is Delancey, it just works so well, and he plays so well off the straight Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart will be straight and sort of almost,
Well, only so straight, given how close they were getting in the
yeah, he's grabbing Riker's arm too.
Yeah, portrayal of just like straight dialogue, but yeah.
When he came back for Picard, I'm like, all right, he's lost maybe 5%. But when you're starting with a fucking 100% John Delancey, you can work with 95%. And 30 years later, that was really impressive, actually.
There's very few performances you can say are... Sorry, Dan, go on.
Yeah. I was going to say, last thing I'm going to say about this is that he's a lot more threatening because he's not the threat in this episode. So in the previous episode, he stabs Wesley, but he's fond of the crew and he likes Wesley, and he throws vicious animal things at Worf, but whatever. It's like you believe that in the end he can always pull back on this, but here it really does feel out of hand. And he got just so ticked off that he was like, all right, you want this? All right, you got this. And even though at the end we know he can just kind of snap his fingers and send everybody back, there really is a tension here that's different than his previous.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of like key to why it works and as so much of a threat, is because every other time it's like an obvious like made up reality that doesn't exist, like the post-atomic horror trial, or like the weird planet with the grape juice sunset with the weird animal guys in Nutcracker uniforms. Like, this is obviously not real life, but they go to great extents here to ground it that, yeah, he's moved you, but you're only about 2 years out. You're within traveling distance of a starbase. You are in a real place, in a real like locale, and that makes it so much more real than almost all the other Q stuff.
Yeah, right.
It's interesting.
So let me ask you.
They allude a little bit here to sort of deja Q as well, because they talk about, I want to join the crew. I'll be a mere lowly mortal, and I'm different. And even Guinan sort of like sets up a little bit of the lore here when she says like, he's different from other Q. There are some honest, lovely Q out there. They're great. And well, Quinn was alright.
Her words were almost respectable, which I don't know if it's saying is lovely.
Lovely Q.
They also reference neutral zone.
Maybe,
I think they.
Yeah, neutral zone
like
as well.
3 different earlier
Hide and
episodes,
Q,
which is very rare for
yeah.
TNG.
Definitely. Sorry, Otto, go on.
So let me ask you guys. I know, especially after The Perfect Mate, we're not the biggest TNG Ferengi lovers here, but if you could just wipe your brain of what Star Trek has given you of the Ferengi. Ferengi were meant to be the villain from the start. They didn't land in season 1, so they said, all right, let's try it again, and gave us the Borg. If they would have given us this cinematic setup with the threat, with Q letting them know how dangerous the Ferengi could be, how long do you think they could have kept the Ferengi tap dance going before it started to maybe unravel and
If
it
this
became
had
goofy?
been- Yeah, if this had been Where No One Has Gone Before, instead of, or Where No One Has Gone Before, instead of, there just being, a Kaczynski experiment. In fact, it had actually been the Kaczynski experiment that got encountered the Borg instead. That would have been, I don't know how long, that would have been wild.
I don't know. I just don't think that this kind of setup of, this force of nature this approach would not work with the Ferengi at all. Like, the Ferengi, by their very nature, require a individual, a voice, a motive, a motivation, profit. You would have to completely gut the entire concept and go with something different in order to make it work in that way. And I think that's probably part of the reason why I don't think we've ever seen a Ferengi in any of the movies, because they are not a particularly cinematic race. They work really well in serialized television.
I mean, Quark was nearly in Insurrection, wasn't he?
Like 3 seconds, yes. Yeah, I don't think it would have worked like really at all. Like, you can give something as much of a cinematic glow up as you want, but if the fundamental concept is more suited to a different medium like serialized television, it doesn't really.
I think they could have given them like the hive mind concept just based on their makeup, but I don't think you would have worked in the technology aspect, which probably diminishes it a little bit.
The problem is that it's kind of inverted the threat level, because the Ferengi, the capitalist mindset is all about the individual, the accumulation of wealth in one concentrated individual. And so you look at this episode where it focuses on Sonia Gomez and her empathy for the crewmates that she's lost, and the individuality of her quirkiness, and how it's such an opposition to these Borg who are the ultimate communists. They share everything, their thoughts, they're cubes, they have little roommates in their cubes, it's cute. And so, with the Ferengi coming in and saying, hey, we can buy and sell your Federation 10 times over. It's like, well, we're not for sale. We don't use money. What can you do to us? We're the ultimate hive mind, financially speaking. So it's kind of, it's kind of like they were never really a threat when profit is the motive. Like, I guess maybe you could see how in
Profit
certain
motive?
isolated ways they could. Yeah. They could isolate a couple of colonies and convert them to capitalism and things, but I could never see it working on a broad scale the way they were written.
Ironic considering how villainous capitalism is in our world right now.
Right, I guess, yeah.
Well, the problem with capitalism is that it's insidious.
Just like with hindsight, they should have killed Sonia Gomez, right, in this episode, because they only used her twice.
Yeah.
If you want to put a face to the 18 that died, shouldn't they have? With hindsight,
I think that would have been a bit too brutal. I think that
that wouldn't have passed network television in the days. But yeah, I get where you're going.
They wouldn't show her exploding. They didn't show actually any dead people.
No.
They just mentioned them in dialogue.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. So I think that you're wrong. I think that it actually would have passed censors because guess what? Twin Peaks was just around the corner.
Good point.
You could get away with this kind of thing. Granted, but the thing is, I don't think it suits TNG as a show. TNG is not that mean-spirited.
I mean, they did just kill
DS9 would go there. Yeah, but that was a very
I know.
The actress was leaving. It's a very different thing. I think TNG's tone is best exemplified by Tasha, actually, in that they go out of their way to give her a backstory involving rape and then back off instantly and realize, oh wait, we don't want to touch that. Actually, we're not that kind of show. I think that, you could have gotten away with killing her, but I think it would have been the wrong move for TNG to do. I think it would have been very mean-spirited. I see the logic behind Otto. I think that
Q was mean-spirited in this episode.
Yes.
Well, he was, but it's I think that it's a case of there's a difference between being mean-spirited to the characters and then being mean-spirited to the audience. Because from a audience perspective, you can remove yourself from the situation and go, well, that's 80 people we don't know. But the moment you put a face to it, that starts to, you get the whole feels bad, man.
She's proto-Ensign Gamble.
That's right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's TNG as a show does not go there. DS9 would. I think Voyager would have done that. I think Latent Image you might have gone there, but TNG is just generally not that kind of show. But I absolutely see it in terms of the economy of it. In terms of she only turns up one other time, and it's in the Dolphin, and it's an utterly disposable appearance.
What a shame, because she I'd forgotten, because it's obviously Sonia Gomez comes back in Lower Decks, and you're like, oh cool, fun callback to that. And aside from the it's all over me, which we've clipped a 1,000 times. I'd forgotten how good and cool she is in this episode. I really like her.
She's a fine actress.
She's so good. And she's also a good counterpoint to a lot of the TNG crew, especially Geordi, especially Picard. And I feel like TNG she's the antithesis to Wesley Crusher, really, isn't she? She's awkward, she's clumsy, but she's not a boy genius, and she's actually fucking likable. That would have been the alternate reality I would probably say. Instead of Wesley, can we have Gomez? That would have been better?
Is she the proto-manic pixie dream engineer? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Could have
put some trill spots on her and off we go.
Yeah. Wasted opportunity.
So, speaking of It's All Over Me, and we counted 4 memes, or is that one? There's Guinan in hands, there's Q leaning over into Picard's ear. And then there was one near the end, I think, too.
Is it Q sitting on the floor?
No, it's the Picard saying,
I need you.
Yeah, that's the one.
There was so much humor in an episode that was otherwise deadly serious. It was impressive how you can juxtapose. Yeah.
That's what I mean about TNG, not being that dark of a show. I think that humor was absolutely needed, because otherwise you sit there and you dwell on the fact that 18 people just died.
Yes, Ensign, it's all over me.
There you go.
But I think that, the humor is actually really well chosen and well placed in this episode, because you aren't expecting the turn that this is going to take. And it's when we've sat down to review this, I think I said I'm not sure how coherent it's going to be, because you have all the stuff that's not related to it. And it actually is. The incongruity of Gomez and her hot chocolate shenanigans, and then the Borg killing 18 people with a cutting beam, is absolutely required, because it's part of the thematic text of the episode. It's, you are not prepared for this. You are still sitting around in your love boat, drinking hot chocolate near intelligent circuitry, while that shit is 2 years away. Yeah, that's the entire point of the episode. It's all part of the subtext. I am guess what? I'm slowly inching up that rating because it is the thematic like feedback is all in there. It's all a coherent loop.
Yes, and it's all in that. And there's also the implication that even though she didn't die, she could have. Those other 18 people, they could have all been Sonia Gomez's. They could have been likable. They could have been on their first deep space mission. We don't know.
Yeah, Avatar's right. There's elements of Barclay in there, and I think they adapted it for that. But
all right, hold on. You said TNG doesn't go there. What's that episode with the crew member frozen into the floor where she phases in?
Oh,
that's
God,
pretty
yeah,
close.
yeah.
That's pretty close to just killing a likable character. That's pretty.
No blood, which is also worse, I
which
think,
it
in
is.
a way. Yeah.
No, see, the thing is, you're forgetting there is blood, but it's not from like the waist.
No,
I
it's
think
from a
blood
nose.
comes from a nose. And that's even worse.
It is pretty gruesome.
They don't go out of her way to give her a name or anything like that, which I think would make it even worse. Like that's the thing. That is the unspoken limit. The instant you give someone a name, that's when it starts to feel bad when they die.
Yeah.
And another tragedy for the carpeting too, I must add.
Yeah, the Borg shadow
was a
there.
cool-
Yeah. It took Geordie weeks to get that out. Speaking of the Borg, I'll talk a little bit about from the costume. And I don't usually pull quotes from the costume designer, but it was very interesting. So Dorinda Ricewood, who was the costume designer for this episode, recalled, "I was tired by the streamlined stainless steel concept of scary," which I think is a shot fired at Cybermen, Dan.
Cybermen and Cylons from
Yeah,
Battlestar,
Cylons as well, yeah. With the Borg, the idea was that the drones lived for centuries and that their body parts would wear out and be replaced with mechanical body parts. I wanted to show that they didn't wear out uniformly. So some of them had eye patches, some of them had fake legs or arms. Makeup designer Michael Westmore remarked that the Borg were given a zombie-like pallor so that the viewers would know they were seeing a creature that couldn't be reasoned or negotiated with. Do you feel like that sort of comes across? Because like for TNG or for Star Trek, we maybe even television, they are very kind of like, even the Borg ship itself is like, right, what have we got laying about? Right, throw it on it, let's go. But do you think that works?
I think they go out of their way to contextualize it in a way that works. I do have to, I've always felt that the Cybermen lacked punch. They have always been way better executed in media that can actually go into the body horror aspect of them, which, guess what, First Contact does that excellently. I think that I do actually have to bring up two things that didn't work for me with the Borg here. One is that you can tell this is their first appearance because the two drones that we see give kind of very borderline maniacal, evil, grins at and I'm like, I get why they're doing it, and it is very effective, but it kind of runs counter to all the points that they're making about them being an implacable force that doesn't care about you. They just want to use and consume. Having them turn and go, is a little bit incongruous.
It's a little bit queenish.
A little bit. Yeah. It was always there. You think of such three-dimensional terms. But the other thing that I kind of noticed, and I made sure to jot it down in case I forgot, I thought it was very, very telling that Q has that whole thing of going into, it's not a he, not a she, it's this other thing, this androgynous being, and then promptly begins to refer to it with male pronouns because it's played by a male actor. And I felt that was a massive missed opportunity of why do you not just refer to it as it? That would be way more. It's just a bit of a writing screw up in terms of just you are not selling me. It's just like a chink in the armor, as it were. Just
it's
a little bit of
early.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
Do you want to go there?
Do
you want to
he
go
doesn't
there?
respect us colleagues, so I don't think he respects what he's writing.
Yeah. The effort to go out of their way to identify the Borg as not having a gender and then immediately gendering it is just so 1980s Trek. That is so of the time.
We're not ready for cogenitor. We're not there yet. Okay, how about we go on to
Bread.
gentlemen? There is a big old loaf of bread here. There is so much to pull from.
Suddenly the Outcast doesn't look so bad. I just gotta say, stars. We'll get to it someday.
Oh,
They make strides throughout TNG on that.
Dan, as our
Give me
returning
rejoined any
hero
day.
to this amazing episode, please. Which slice of this bread are you taking? Are you going for the crust? Are you going for the juicy middle section with the seeds on top? Where are you heading?
Each of us is going to get our own personal meme for this episode. But for me, the image that stands out and has always stood out has just been Guinan with her hands up, and it's so out of character for her to lose her chill like that. But it just got you could see the hair bristling on the back of her neck, and it's just that really nails home just how devious.
Her back is arched, her tail is fluffy.
Yeah, exactly. That's my bread.
Brad, fantastic. I'm going to cut the queue. I'm going to go... I'm going to cut the queue. Get it? Yeah, no, okay, fine.
British humor.
Hey. Yes. He's British. No, mine's going to be Q sitting on the chair in the conference room with that amazing lighting. Just half, like literally stark contrast. Half of him is lit as he's. And I'm going to also just add a little addendum on there. His amazing entrances and exits. Another credit to Rob Bowman for getting him to just like snap people back and forth, and then him not even walking, he'll just snap himself over. He will use his powers a lot in this episode just to put himself in great situations. So yeah, full points for Q's mobility in this episode. Stars.
I just want to piggyback off your one for a moment. I love that the lighting is such that like the red of his uniform looks almost plum. Like I was looking at it, it's like it almost. I don't know if it was like a case of like having slightly blue lighting or if it's just how dark it was, but the red in the Starfleet uniform didn't even look red. It was really, really well done. Mm-hmm. I think my bread is going to be, if we're going with like the Borg as being cybernetic zombies that do not stop, do not waver, do not wait. The shot of that massive broadside phaser beam going through the side of the cube, and there's a massive chunk taken out of it, and then that persisting all the way through the chase, and then slowly regenerating like that. That's some visual flair. Like this didn't win an Emmy for visual effects, but it kind of should have done. I that was really like even back then. I imagine that was all right model work, and I imagine it's probably been touched up a little bit by the remaster, but like. You can tell that was done practically and it was done very well. I love that kind of stuff.
Auto.
Yeah, you better cue me in. What they did was they melted plastic and then ran back the footage, which is a very cheap way, relatively, to do it. That was going to be my bread. If we're talking like the most memorable things from the episode, it would have been Captain, It's All Over Me, but I never link that to this episode.
No.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have anything to do with the plot, and she's only there in 2 episodes, and it's hard to remember which one.
Sorry, did you say,
Oh, I wasn't looking. It's all over you.
Yes, Ensign, it's all over me.
That's it.
Oh. That's the bread. Sonia Gomez. Okay, I want to have a little aside here. Gentlemen, as you know, I have a spreadsheet.
Wait, we've started the segments. You can't just stop in the middle of segments.
I feel I can do what I wish here. I am the non-linear corporeal entity here. Gentlemen, I would like you to tell me who you think got the most lines out of this episode. Was it Sonia Gomez or was it Data? Who got the most lines?
I think Sonia might have got more lines than Data, yeah.
Data got nothing.
Yeah, well, you say that. Sonia Gomez got 343 words. Data got 342. He was one word shy, which is very strange.
Maybe in the script, but I bet you that's on the cutting room floor. I bet you if we go back and actually count as we listen.
I gotta look.
Listen, according to Chakotay, yeah, that's how it comes up.
22 lines. It's all like random search pattern. We've covered the area. Sensors indicate it's all just filler stuff.
It counts.
Coordinates.
Yeah, I am actually going to point out that the whole stuff about like having to, like trying to find Picard was completely useless, and they could have just cut it. That's my one genuine. Yeah, it's all very matter of factly, and it's like, I know that we live in a world in which like Picard is literally just reconstituted plasma and nebula like particles at this point, but like it's still just like a complete lack of urgency, like complete lack of urgency, and it just doesn't add anything to the plot. Like,
he's just three reconstituted plasma golems in a trench coat.
So I'll disagree for a couple of reasons. A soft disagree. One, it demonstrates the power of Q. I know we've seen him twice before, but this is like he abducts them at will and they're powerless, so that's fine. And also there were a couple scenes like walking through the ship and the double conference room which felt a little stretchy, and the music helps, but if you cut out that surge stuff, what are you going to do? A third conference room scene? Like you'd have to come up with something better than that to stuff in there. And I thought it was fine for what it was. It's not the best of the episode, but.
Oh, I'm thinking mostly just stuff like your search pattern will cover the most area in the least time. And I'm like,
Well,
okay,
They
right,
did
so-
cut away and then come back
lot
and
of the
say,
time.
like, yes, we've covered a spherical pattern, and now we couldn't find him. And
That was a bad cut because they said they came back 6 hours later. No one had moved a muscle. They were all in the exact same
no, it'd
pose.
taken them
as
2
they
hours to
were.
do it. They'd had a break for 2 hours, got some lunch, had an amazing game of 3D chess with those funky figures, and then come back and, yeah. All right, let's go on to...
The best advice I can give you is to just be yourself.
You're the worst thing that ever happened to Zek. You're the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Actually, that's the second best piece of advice.
In fact, you're the worst thing that ever happened to the entire Ferengi Alliance.
No.
Can you stop saying that?
I forgot I changed that. Best and worst. You're outraged, Otto. You spent ages on that, and I've changed it.
Help yourself.
Okay, best and worst moments of the episode. Stars, hit us up first, please.
Yeah, I think my worst is just gonna be like the completely pointless, like flavorless filling bits of talking about surge patterns and repeatedly establishing. Like, I know, I get what you mean, or that it's establishing like Q's power, but like, it was completely flavorless. You could have taken those sections out, put them into any other TNG script, and I would not have noticed. It is completely nondescript. There was a way to use that time that was more effective, that didn't break the budget. Like, I imagine this was already an expensive episode, so they had to fill that time somehow, but there were better ways to do it than that. You had all these consummate performers on set. Just write up a bit more dialogue, please. Don't talk to me about spherical search patterns, please.
Which is weird, because the Borg cube
guess
was a
what?
cube. Think about
Yes,
that.
it was. Well done. What do you want to tell me about the Borg triangle next?
No, carry on.
Um,
No, we'll get to the dodecahedron
so-
one day.
one day. I think my best. I'm struggling not to say the entire rest of the episode. I'm gonna be that basic bitch. I'm just gonna say the music. Ron Jones is like so missed when he like, left on TNG. Well, he got fired from TNG, and it's just like, what? Imagine firing a man who does this good work, and like you say, it elevates so many scenes.
For
The
enjoying
sheer
a
amount of
succulent
stuff
synth meal.
I see
He
you
was
know your
actually-
judo well, sir.
He was less synthy than usual in this episode,
was,
which I think
yeah.
also
Very
helped
There was some
to
good
the
orchestral stuff, yeah.
cinematic.
Yeah, like there's a lot to be done with just creepy music played over slow scenes. Like,
Wait, hold on.
Guess what?
I'm sorry. I've got to cut in. A quote from his memory alpha. His firing was supposedly because his music was thought to be, quote, too noticeable by Rick Berman.
yeah. That because they literally referred to everything after him. They wanted sonic wallpaper. That's literally what they referred to it as. And it's like, I can't imagine. Like, that's so Rick Berman, isn't it? Just like a complete lack of respect for the craft.
Berman.
Like, what makes this work? Let's remove it.
Too noticeable.
And it's like, I just think of like the first moment in Best of Both Worlds where you see the cube and you magnify, and then you get that fucking like awesome MIDI chorus, and it's like imagine like seeing that and going, yeah, listen to that, please. Fuck
The
off.
Casio choir. I love it.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, it just did so much to elevate this episode. Like, there's so much good about this episode. I could talk about a lot of it, but yeah, like the music really does a lot to bring what is already great into perfection.
Cool. I'm going to interject here. Okay, so my worst moment is kind of going to be a little controversial one, but for reasons you might not realize. I'm going to go for Guinan, but not in the way you might think. I liked Guinan in this episode, but at a certain point in the episode, she just kind of got dropped and left in the conference room. And then she's still there to this day. She was kind of there to espouse and talk about the Borg, but she wasn't that integral to the plot, aside from the crazy hands with Q. This could have, because she talked about the Borg, this could have gone through scientific dialogue. This could have come through sort of, this could have been in the section where they were doing spherical search patterns. They could have had some investigation into what the Borg are. And he didn't really need Guinan to espouse that. It's great from a world-building point of view because you've expanded the Elorian's character, but at a certain point they went, right, Guinan's character's done, Don't need it for the rest of the episode. Off you go. Apart from at the end where she plays a bit of 3D chess. Stars, you've got a retort.
Well, no, I think you could easily. Yeah, I think that's actually not a bad point. You could easily have had a bit of her on the bridge, reacting emotionally to the people dying, or just to the Borg doing like what they did to her planet again. Like, I think that would have been a much more economical and emotive way of spending that
and
time.
It enhances her character as well. And I'm not saying that it hasn't, but I feel like there was probably a better way to do it. And this is me literally like scraping at gold here. You know, I'm literally flaking off the bit of rust that's on the side, because the best moment for me is a moment that has sort of lasted with me in my entire lifetime of watching this episode, and it's the cutting beam going through the hull and having that section of the ship just right. They had to cut up something and model it.
2 Emmys.
And yeah, 2 Emmy, and that was just a great, very physical thing you don't see in Star Trek. You don't see them ever, even to this day, like cutting into the hull. Even like modern day Discovery, you see them like if they attach to the hull, it just sort of like clamps on, sparks fly, and you get the generic SFX. This was a very visceral invasion, almost, which is what the Borg do. Very not spiritually. What's the word? Very literally.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And they kind of, very invade your soul. They'll invade your starship and they'll cut bits out of you and reassemble you how they like. And there was no reason for them to do that. That's probably, they didn't really know what they were doing. It's like, right, let's just zap into the hull. But the very physical view of seeing that hull section rise up and going, oh shit, an actual starship is getting cut up. Shields are useless here. Was very evocative.
Came up as clean as a slice of cellular peptide cake. Yeah.
It was a clean cut, but I noticed they angled the decks, so you could tell they collapsed in between it cutting. It could have just been like a clean horizontal lines, but they
that's because they got that curve. They thought about it. It was great.
Well, it's also a case of that's something that you can only really do with like models, I feel like, and miniatures. Like, I don't feel like you'd get that kind of same attention to detail with CG. I don't know. Maybe it's just.
Or it go over the top. It goes over the top. You'd have like thousands of cell structures and people flying at all of it. It would be. And you'd look at it and go, yeah, that's CG. This was a bit more, because I think it's because of the stark contrast. It was just a single laser, a single few decks. It just felt a little bit raw in a way that kind of like Twilight Zone feels raw when it sort of hits on sort of various sort of parts of dialogue or parts of sort of exposition. You feel like that's there. Dan, stop me waffling. Tell me about your best and worst.
I'll start with the worst. So it's already been mentioned that Gomez was underutilized, that Guinan was underutilized. So I'm going to pick on Data here. The first thing they do when they get aboard the Borg ship is that Riker says, we need to interface with the main computer here, and we got to figure out what's going on. Are they on Linux? Are they on Windows? And so, he's the one that's standing there with a tricorder trying to get that done. Meanwhile, Data's just like trying a cubule on for size.
Holy shit, these guys are on Nokia phones. What? It's like a Windows tablet.
Actually, he kind of does a little bit of damage, because the point of the Borg in this episode was their lack of humanity. They hadn't really established their lack of individuality yet. This isn't something that gets developed until later on. They do have the hive mind, but the fact that they're stripped of any individuality, is not really focused on too much. And so Data gets there, and the first thing he says is, "Oh, each of these cubicles is bespoke for a single Borg drone," and it's kind of the opposite of the direction they want to go. I would have just liked to have seen even just a throwaway line with him ruminating with Geordi about how different this artificial intelligence is from his own, or just something. But instead we just got more of Geordi walking along with hallways with Gomez, and it just was misplaced and misused, but the best. And so this is for me as a Doctor Who fan, and growing up, if you haven't watched the original Doctor Who, the classic that ended in the 80s, started in the 60s, the whole structure was you got a chunk of Doctor Who, a 22-minute episode, no commercial interruption because it aired on the BBC. And at the end would be a cliffhanger to get you waiting with bated breath until the next week, when you finally get to see how the Doctor and his companions get out of whatever situation there is. And this episode takes that note and runs with it in a way that's really rewarding. We have 4 commercial breaks, each of them an 11-minute segment. And the absolute best cliffhanger and my best of the episode is when the Borg finally first beams onto the Enterprise in engineering just in the background. And they do this a lot in the episode. They do it with Q. Towards the end of the episode, he's just sitting in a seat in the background. You didn't even notice. And here, Geordi's in the foreground, and he's communicating with the captain. And all of a sudden, something happens in the background, and there's this dark figure. And then we get more of a close-up, but it's still out of focus. And just there's this twitching, this mechanical sound. And man, there's no way anybody got up for a snack during that 2.5 minutes. Absolute best use cliffhanger.
Auto, take us home.
More credit to Bowman, I guess, because I can't imagine the script would have outlined how it was to appear. So that's probably either the DP or Bowman. I can't believe no one said Delancey yet. I want to say Delancey, but he's kind of already got his shine.
So much.
So I'll go elsewhere. My best. The lines from Geordi and Sonia. You know, you're awfully young to be so driven. I am. I had to be. I had to be the best because only the best get to be here. I like that. It adds a lot of weight to the Love Boat that we see week after week. Yeah, the professionals is because they're all 4.0 graduates. They're all the best of the best. And maybe this is just because I've been watching so much Olympics, and I always feel for these young 19, 20-year-olds that have the pressure of their entire country on them. Like, I like that little reminder of, yeah, maybe they're professionals, but it's because they've been training their whole life to be in this moment. My worst, and this is why I'm always desperate to have Dan on, because he knows me like the back of his hand. He put in chat as a joke, what would it take to get a 10? Sonia has to die. Maybe not Sonia. I needed someone. I needed a face. I needed a name. I needed a scream. I needed something. Because as cool as that little the Borg cutting beam is, I wanted to be punched in the face by this episode. If you're going to set up, and part of this is hindsight because we know how influential the Borg are going to be. If you want to set up this bad guy for the long haul, punch me in the fucking nose with it. So I needed something to just that big emotional gut punch, and they didn't go there.
So, I'm kind of curious. So we already know that conspiracy and the whole thing with the bugs was meant to be set up for the Borg, right? And then they abandoned the idea of the Borg being insectoid and pivoted to this, and then they dropped the collection. And it kind of strikes me that what you want, them putting a face to it, is what you get with conspiracy. Because you get, like, Remick dying and blowing up. You get Walker dying. You get Tryla Scott getting taken over. You get names. You get faces. You get characters who you've spent time with being affected and dying. And that's not what you get here. And I almost wonder, had they cut the link by this point? Were they meant to be completely unconnected? Because it's like, I don't know, there's the whole thing of, peaceful coexistence and hive minds. Like, there's enough there, but they are so different in their morphology. And I almost wonder if that was what they were relying on, was eventually going, that's the emotional link. But I don't know. I feel like that's what this was missing. Like, a conspiracy went there in a really big way, and that's what makes that feel so dark and effective and memorable. But it does lack that in a way.
I mean, if they were going to link it and they bring back, like, Tryla Scott's actress under Borg makeup or something, that could have been cool. But they're very disparate. I don't know. I didn't feel a particular connection to, I even forget the name of the episode you just mentioned. Oh, Conspiracy.
I love Conspiracy. It's great fun.
Also, like, the big deaths are kind of the bad guys anyway. Remick is such a turd in his prior episodes. Like, you're rooting against him anyways. I wanted, like, a good guy to die. Because not only could you lay that at the feet of the Borg, you could lay it at the feet of Q. And then that also colors your future interactions with him, so...
It's interesting that you bring him up, because in this episode, we know that Q doesn't deserve to be a member of the Enterprise, but asks to be. And Remick, at the end of his first episode, also does the same thing with Picard as well. It's just...
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to be on the Love Boat, and Sonia Gomez beat him there by a fortnight.
Out of sight. Wow. Okay. On to...
I can show you my rating code.
Schiller rating 3.5.
Associational rating norm -3.
That's much too low a rating.
Just not accustomed to seeing an unsatisfactory rating on a member of my crew.
I don't think there's going to be any unsatisfactory ratings here. Okay, gentlemen, I have picked my rating code because this all stood out to us. None of us mentioned it in our bread or best of moments. But, gentlemen, how many beautiful Borg babies babbling out of 10 would you give this episode? Let's start with Dan.
So the question I have to ask myself, and I started with a 9.3 in my pre-rate, did this episode go as hard as the Enterprise did? It reached its maximum warp velocity of 9.65.
Are you serious? Are you going to go for that? That was literally going to be my pull.
Shall I?
That was going to be my pull as well. How fucking dare
What?
you?
I literally Googled max speed of the USS Enterprise as we were talking about it. Get out of it.
Well, you all can go there because I will not. It does not.
Wow, you're the worst villain in this whole episode.
Stuck in the mud. Yep. No, the whole concept is the Borg are inhuman, and we have the humanity of the Enterprise. Not only that, but the vulnerability saving the day. Picard recognizing that they're still, bags of meat, and they're going to get taken advantage of at some point by the bigger fish. It's what saves them, is that self-actualization realization. But we don't get the input from the individuals that we crave the most. We don't get Data's input in this episode. We really don't get very much actionable from Guinan. She's still mysterious at this point and really kind of an unwritten character. Almost like the Grim Reaper of the episode, just kind of shows up and kind of brings things down a little bit. Like, oh, you guys can't handle this shit. And, so I want there to be, I understand the point of the episode is that there are no heroes in this one, but I want there to be at least something outstanding that somebody on the Enterprise does. I don't want them to do a Wesley Deus Ex Machina moment, but at least have some useful contributing factor. And I feel like Data really could have provided that here, and he just was just left out on the side. Worf has one moment to do anything, and he gives it to Ensign Meathead to go and fight the Borg. This is really a Riker and Picard and Guinan episode, and nobody else really gets a lot of light to shine. So it does not achieve one of the highest ratings, but I will bring it up slightly just for being a great ride. So I'm going to give this 9.4 beautiful babbling Borg babies out of 10.
Very good, very good. Interestingly, fun fact, Dr. Pulaski does not appear at all in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Season 2 stars.
Yeah, you kind of blew my brain because I was like, yeah, no, season 2, she should be, and yet she's not. I guess she was too busy writing up all those casualty reports that Picard refused to read. Yeah, this episode does have a few flaws. I mentioned that the filler of the search patterns and all that, and minor nitpicks here, but I think that on the whole, this episode really bangs. It's cut from a very different cloth to the rest of season 1 and 2. There are episodes that are maybe slightly better. I think we loved on Peak Performance, but it's a very different episode there. This is a call forward to what TNG would become in season 3, 4, 5, kind of the height of it. It's not quite there yet. I do have to push back on Dan's point about Data gets so much to do. Data gets to save the day every freaking. Data has saved 50 Christmases and ruined 3. I think he can afford to sit on the sidelines for one episode. And if we're looking for a character to do something extraordinary and wonderful and human and innovative that no one else will do, I don't know how Q puts it best. How many people can actually put down their own egos for the sake of others and say, I am inadequate to this task, help me. I think, isn't that what Kirk says to Edith Keeler, is, the few most beautiful words in the English language, I love you, it's let me help, that kind of thing. So I think in that way, I think this does very much, it's very Star Trek, this episode, in that way, in that it's about humility and acknowledging your own inadequacies and respecting them and not viewing them as a weakness, but as just a fact of who you are and something to work, a challenge to overcome rather than something to be ashamed of. If there's something to be ashamed of, it's your own arrogance. which is a long, rambling way to get around to the fact that I will be giving this 9.65 babbling Borg babies who are quite beautiful and flush despite their Borg pallor out of 10. It just bangs. Really, really good directorial flair. It just works on almost every level, and John Delancey just is on fine form here. I don't think he ever gets quite this menacing again until maybe like Picard season 2. But even then, it's like it says he's lost a few steps by then because he's 30 years later. Guess what? I hope I'm nearly as active.
He's lost.
Yeah, I hope I'm as like fucking on it as he is at that age. It's just a tour de force as far as I'm concerned. This is like where TNG really just realizes what it can be. So yeah, 9.65 for me.
Very good. I'd just like to say that my deterioration is continuing apace. I will not be the same person I am in 30 years, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll let Auto finish.
You're heavily preserved by all the alcohol. So.
That's the best way to be. Okay. This unexpected. I've watched this episode countless times, but I feel like it's not until we get to the lens of us four being here that we actually sort of look at it properly. Or you sort of, you don't want, there's a difference between watching things casually and watching things with your friends, or watching things when you've got the critical eye open as well. And I feel like this definitely surprised me in that it held up a lot better than I thought it was. Yeah, small complaints about, they spent some time with the search patterns and maybe Guinan wasn't used to her best. Data, I kind of do agree that he wasn't used to his best this episode, but that would pay off in later episodes, like with, unfortunately, Descent, but thankfully First Contact. So Data does get his moment in the sunshine to compare himself to the Borg. But God, there's just so much in this episode. The directorial choices are just key in this episode. They are so good. There is an unnecessary amount of style in this episode. Doesn't need to be. This is that kind of like someone's way of getting past Gene Roddenberry going, well, we can't change the dialogue or the script, but hey, maybe we can make this look flashy. There was a lot of special effects. It won Emmys for it. And there was a lot of good moral conscience about, and the stuff that doesn't apply to the person but to the society. Your society is not ready for this. There are things out there that can overcome you. You are not ready to go out there. It doesn't mean you should stop looking, but the moral lesson is, be wary of it, and don't be afraid to get a bloody nose. And it was a great sort of like counterpoint to the usual, like, oh, we're the Federation, we're the best, and this is our moral lesson we can teach you, or this is the way we can teach you, the viewer, how to better yourselves. This is like a very kind of stark contrast to sort of like a lot of the TNG messaging. And the Borg were cool. The Borg were menacing. They were very threatening. I'll excuse Worf and Data for not having a lot to do, or no lack of Pulaski, for the fact that we take a lot of screen time for stupidly long-armed Borg interfacing with the systems and having some kind of hokey effects, but work in a weird way. Like, imagine if in this day and age, you had this film with these amazing CG effects, but then you shot someone and they had like 3 sort of like diffused rectangles for an effect. It'd be like, oh, that's effective. It's stunning. It's done in the right way. And I'm gonna have to agree with my esteemed colleague that a 9.65 beautiful babbling Borg babies basking in Riker's beard out of 10 for this episode. Auto, take us home.
They're
Please.
covering us up like a roast. So I love this review series because not only are we watching great Star Trek for the most part, we're also learning about each other. And I'm learning a lot about Idle. Frame of Mind is a very Idle episode, but I don't particularly care for it. The motion picture is an Idle movie, and I can see some merits, but it doesn't really pique my interest. This is where the Venn diagram overlaps, and I really appreciate discovering those overlaps. Like Stars and I had it with Janeway and Counterpoint, and I like a lot of Dan's lineup, and it's fun finding those overlaps. I didn't miss those characters with the low line counts because this is the Borg episode, and they're giving us a lot of exposition. And for as heavy on exposition as it was, it actually felt very fluid. It felt like I was on a ride the whole time. I think the music helped tremendously with that because I called out during the exposition scenes how much it kind of plastered over how boring it had the risk of being. I really love, the human interactions. I liked Sonia Gomez in this. I need you. He broke him down, but it wasn't just to break him. It's part of the ongoing trial. How worthwhile is Jean-Luc Picard? Or is humanity, him as the avatar for humanity, he has to rise to the challenge whether he realizes it or not. This is the lens through which Q views humanity, and he rose to the challenge at this one, at the end of it, and I really like that. This wasn't just for the symmetry. This was in my head before I heard Dan's rating. I'm going to agree to the decimal point, 9.4, beautiful babbling Borg babies. Very good episode. It does miss, I like the big emotional stuff, maybe more emphasis on the human element than on the new threat, but I can see where that overlap is, and I really like that about this episode.
Fantastic. At the end of that, we've averaged a 9.5 babbling beautiful Borg babies out of 10. This scores 0.1 below the perfect mate. The perfect mate was a 9.6.
I should have given this an 8.5. I should have paid you back.
0.1 over peak performance. That was a 9.4. So it's sitting around the top areas. Latent Image was a 9.6, Terrarium 9.7, Way of the Warrior 9.3. So among esteemed, amazing. It's actually
rarefied company, honestly.
I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's impressive. It really is impressive. The production, the mix of humor and drama and suspense, it was really solid.
Which for season 2 of TNG is like, any time someone says, those early 2 seasons are trash, like, haha, fuck you, go watch Q-Who.
Measure of a Man's in there too.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Thank you, gentlemen. This has been absolutely amazing. We are going to be back on Saturday to continue our Borg. I'm trying to think of something. Extravaganza, yes, but I was trying to think of something that said with a B.
Smorgasborg.
It was right there. How did we miss it?
It's just a shame that I am the host of the show with my limited thesaurus in my brain. My diction is not as good. My lexicon is not as advanced as your guys, even though I try.
But you sure can pick an episode.
I can eventually, finally pick a good... Once I'm finished trolling you guys into watching some shit Trek, I can finally pick some good episodes.
This was your 4th pick, I think. Well done. You finally got one.
Come on, let them bask. We're not even done with the episode. Let them bask.
No, there we go. Anyway, yes, we'll be back on Saturday with Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2, which we will be reviewing separately. So come and join us Saturday for that. It's going to be fun. I'm very much interested in looking at this again through a critical eye. We will see you guys later. Check out the Discord and our Blue Sky page for all the latest announcements coming out and all that jazz. But from myself and the gentlemen here, who are eminently amazing people, we will see you later. Live long, prosper.
Ta-ra.
Don't get assimilated.
So, this is what we've decided. Lisa gets you Tuesdays and Fridays. I get you Mondays and Thursdays.
We, alternate Wednesdays and weekends.
Hold on, I don't think I'm old enough to hear this kind of thing. Ladies, good day. Romano, good luck. You can return my car in the morning. If you can still drive, I'm taking the bus.